listening to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
On This Week in Pharmacy, guess what? We are getting ready. We're headed to Nashville, Tennessee, APhA 2025, Igniting Inspiration. One of my special guests in the booth, we're going to be in the press booth number 125, is Stephen Beckman. He's here with me today in the studio to preview the APhA 2025. Stephen.
Well, Todd, as always, it's a pleasure to be here in your studio. I can't think of a better thing to do on a Monday morning than to come in and work with all the great things that you're doing. APhA is a very key meeting for us. You know, as we've talked in the past, Yaral Pharma in particular has made a commitment to the pharmacy channel. In fact, I think we're doubling down, if you will, in terms of investing even more across the channel. That ranges from everything from things that we're doing directly with pharmacy to learn more about what their needs are, to all the key meetings across the year. And obviously it starts off with the APhA 2025. You couldn't think of a better place than Nashville. So very much looking forward to coming down and continuing to engage with pharmacists and listen. I know I've talked about that in the past, and that's the most important thing that we can do as a supplier, is to listen and really understand both the challenges, which are easy to talk about because we're always trying to overcome them, but equally important, I really want to talk about the opportunities because sometimes we lose sight of those in terms of trying to overcome the significant challenges that we do have in healthcare delivery, and in particular to the pharmacist and independent pharmacies. So our commitment at Yaral is to learn, to listen, or should I say listen, then learn from that. And that will give us the opportunity to continue to look at ways that we can engage and communicate and raise that awareness. You and I were talking the other day about, there's still this sense maybe of disconnect between pharmacy and pharma.
Right.
And I believe that's true. I think that's a fair assessment, and that's something that we want to get better at.
What I like about this meeting specifically is it's a recharge time of the year to come together, to strategize, to raise each other up. And the theme couldn't be better: igniting inspiration, the inspiration to keep going. We came out of the pandemic. It was a horrible situation, lots of burnout, lots of struggle. 2024 was a rebuilding period. 2025, I'm seeing a lot of new investments in some of our smaller pharmacies. I'm seeing the fusion of compounding and long-term care and geriatric care coming together. They're in the full schedule starting on Wednesday, which you're listening to this episode on Friday. There's a lot going on the schedule Friday. If you are in Tennessee, please reach out to me to get on the show, because we're going to be interviewing pharmacists in specific situations, disease states, technology, digital health. We're going to be talking with Dr. Mark Garofoli, about pain management and how important pharmacists are in pain management. I just read an article that had a journal article attached to it about pediatric pain management, which is a whole nother level. I'm excited to be back with Mark, and you and Mark actually have an ongoing reputation. He was with you at the NCPA last year, 2024.
Yeah, that's correct. Mark is a fantastic resource, and obviously dubbed the pain guy for a reason.
Yeah.
It's been great interacting with him over the last year to really understand, again, the perspective of how the pharmacist and in general, healthcare is continuing to look and evolve around pain management. And obviously, at Yaral, we do have some pain management assets that we are excited to be part of that fit, that options available. And Mark talks a lot about options are critical in pain management because of the varying types of patients, situations, and thus, different form factors, different types of products all make sense to make sure that we're managing, pain management the most effective way possible. So I'm very excited to continue that dialogue and discussion with him. And you made a good point about this time of year. For us as a company, spring meetings are critical because when we go through our strategic process, it really starts in like midsummer and runs then through the fall, because that ties into our budget planning and all that stuff for the end of the year going into the next fiscal year. And in our case, many companies is on the calendar year. So when we look at the engagement in the spring meetings, and critically, it's our first chance to see the things that we have learned from last year and are applying in terms of our focus. And are we starting to see not so much the return on investment, but the impact that we're having on the core objectives of interacting with a customer? The business ROI takes care of itself if the intent of what we had planned to do with a particular customer channel or customer focus is starting to take place. So, the opportunity to be in Nashville and be able to start having that first kind of reaction gives us a lot of guidance. And if its guidance is good, great. We keep the course and we keep going forward. If it's something that we need to pivot on or do something different, it also gives us the opportunity before we get too far down the path of our investment. So we're always trying to make sure that we're most effective as we can be. And this is a great venue to do that.
All right, stay tuned. We will be covering the entire event. We're going to be concentrating on our Saturday and Sunday sessions on the exhibit floor. We will be at booth 125, the press and media booth, Pharmacy Podcast Network. If you didn't get a chance to make the APhA 2025, we will have the three-part series coming out starting in about a week. We'll make sure that is all over social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. If you could reach out to us, just let us know what type of content you're looking forward to hearing more about, whether that's pain management, pediatrics, pharmacogenomics, geriatrics, and then, of course, my favorite one, digital health and technology. Please let us know. If you're going to the event, if you're listening to TWIRx right now and you're in Tennessee, once again, reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Just go to pharmacypodcast.com, send me a message, or you can email me by going to publisher@pharmacypodcast.com or Yuri, that's EURY, @pharmacypodcast.com. And it'd be great to have you on the show. Well, I can't wait to see you in Nashville, Stephen. We'll see you at booth 125 on Saturday and Sunday.
Well, 125 is the place to be because for everybody that's out there listening, Todd is doing an amazing job of raising the profile and awareness for pharmacy, and that is a good thing. And just hope I'll see you in your cowboy boots.
Absolutely. That would be uncomfortable on the showroom floor for too much, probably some tennis shoes. But I wish they'd make a pair of tennis shoes that look like cowboy boots.
There you go. There we go. Whole new opportunity.
We'll see you in Nashville. Thanks for listening to This Week in Pharmacy.
At Yaral Pharma, we're your source for high-quality generic products that leverage cutting-edge topical patch and soft gel technologies, transforming drug delivery for pharmacists and patients alike. Imagine prescription, non-opioid patches that precisely target pain and deliver relief directly to the source. By utilizing hydrogel or in-drug adhesive technologies, our topical patches offer controlled medication release, optimal concentrations, and a reduced need for frequent administration. It's pain relief without compromise. Fast, safe, and effective. And that's not all. Our soft gel capsules, developed with exclusive PearlTech technology, deliver medications in semi-liquid gel capsules, allowing for limited ingredients, improved tolerability, and reduced excipients. Caring innovation runs deep at Yaral Pharma. Thanks to our parent company IBSA's ongoing pursuit of novel therapeutic solutions and their expertise in transdermal and topical patch technology, we're setting a new standard for generic drug delivery. To learn more, including important safety information about our products, visit yaralpharmainc.com. That's YARAL pharmainc.com, and connect with us on LinkedIn.
Hey, welcome to TWIRx, This Week in Pharmacy. This is a special episode. I can't believe I have these three people in my studio, virtual studio. I would like to have you in Pittsburgh studio someday. But Stephanie, this is special. You put this meeting together. I'm going to have you kick this off. Dr. Stephanie Smith, welcome to TWIRx.
Yeah, thank you for having us. This is so fun. And yeah, so I thought it'd be so fun to talk about the whole world of non-traditional work from home remote roles. And I thought Thea and Jamie would be perfect to round out our discussion today. And so a little bit about me. I started out in the traditional role, critical care pharmacist, was in the weeds of like doing it all, and I loved it. But once I had my first daughter, and everything kind of shifted. And so I still really loved being a pharmacist, but I also really struggled with that balance for a long time. And so I tried a lot of different roles in between. And I found once I actually had a role that I could work from home, and that happened thanks to COVID. My role went remote. I was working in a research clinical job at that time. My whole world opened up and my life changed. And I was like, this is amazing. I had more time to exercise, more time with my kids, more time to eat a little healthier. And my stress level went from here to here. And so I just am very passionate about opening up the eyes of other pharmacists, and especially pharmacist moms who are in that same role, and they love to be using their PharmD and their clinical knowledge and helping patients, but they just need a little bit of that flexibility. And so what I do is I help pharmacists in that job search process. So kind of things have changed a lot since I went to pharmacy school. Not that we really were taught much of this in school. Any of the stuff that we're going to talk about today, Jamie and Thea for sure can agree. But I can remember when I graduated from pharmacy school, I printed out my resume on like really nice cardstock and mailed it in. And then, maybe 2 or 3 people interviewed, and it was like, a nice shake of a hand, and you kind of got the job. And so now with the world of technology and online job postings, it's totally changed. And now we kind of don't know how to navigate this, especially as pharmacists who tend to try to keep quiet and like to blend in with the in the background. So so I kind of take that process of teaching you getting caught up on the technology and how to actually approach it. And so I love that, and it's really exciting. I find it really interesting. And Jamie actually is the go-to person where she is going to teach you all about non-traditional roles and what is out there. Jamie, why don't you tell us about what you've been doing?
Thank you, Stephanie. It's so fun to be here with you. And it's such a fun time to be a PharmD because we all, Stephanie, Thea, we all have history being pharmacists. And for so long, I thought that was all I could be, was a pharmacist, which was great when I graduated and had that 6-figure job as a 24-year-old. But 10 years later, and I'm still doing the same job, felt like, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong profession. I picked the wrong degree. I invested in a doctorate degree that I don't actually want to do anymore. And so what is so fun for me and so interesting is to be a PharmD right now and to think about roles outside of traditional roles. We're so used to only looking at roles that require a pharmacist license, that have pharmacist in the job posting, that we're missing the greater scope of what our degree can offer. We did not go to a really expensive trade school to be a single profession. We got an advanced doctorate level degree that's a STEM plus degree that lets us work in a number of different ways. And we've just not been taught them. So we haven't been applying for these roles. We haven't been pursuing them because we didn't think they applied. So when we see the job posting and it says experience in life sciences, we think, oh, that's not me. I don't have a degree in life sciences. When yes, we do. We have the ultimate degree that should put us first in line for these jobs. We just don't recognize our degree and our experience for what we have and understand how to transfer it into transferable skills. So I love showing PharmDs what's possible from working in pharma, biotech, medical writing, medical communications, drug advertising. It's really almost limitless what a PharmD can do, especially when you start looking at your degree through different lenses other than where do I have to be licensed to work in this pharmacy or at this site. So I I just think it's a really fun time to be a PharmD, especially one who's working in non-traditional ways.
Dr. Thea Blystone, you're kind of an example of what Jamie's talking about, that you just forged your own pathway. You've built your own business. Tell our listeners, if they don't know who Thea Blystone is, a little bit about you.
Yeah, I am just a country girl doing her thing as a pharmacist, and realized quickly that after 8 different spots in pharmacy inside the pharmacy box, I wasn't fitting in and I couldn't sit still. And I had the opportunity to do more. And what that more was, I thought, was going back to school, getting more degrees, maybe an MBA, maybe healthcare administrator. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to swear, fuck that. I ain't doing that. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't need to do that. I am sitting here with a PharmD. I am a doctorate. I have skills that I'm not getting paid to do. And so 8 years ago, I jumped. I said, okay, what is it that I want to do? What is it that fills my cup up for pharmacy? And it wasn't really about pharmacy. It was about me as a person and saying, I want to fill my cup up as a person and be able to be a go-to parent. How can I do that? What skills are transferable, which is what Jamie goes into a ton, is just what transferable skills do we have of meeting a patient where they are, taking them down a road better than me, and be able to help my community at large. Those things for me are huge. And that's exactly what I built. And I figured it out. I said, okay, I want to be able to do patient advocacy, support, education, hold patients accountable to great healthcare outcomes. And oh, by the way, I want to get paid to do it. And that's really where I built my business. And I figured it out until I figured it out, right? Like, I just kept learning until I figured it out. And, it took me 24 months, but it takes my students today only about 12 weeks to be able to do what I've done, because I streamline it for them, because I've walked the road of what gets us stuck, what keeps us stuck. And when pharmacists have to show up with a resume in hand and not get a job today, because there's 35 pharmacists to every job in the country, like, that to me is where we get scared. And that's why Stephanie has her course of being able to showcase what we have. But the problem isn't really just that. It's also the fact that we need to now market ourselves as the best in line and best in class. And that is what no pharmacy school has ever taught us to be able to do. Stephanie, what's your take on that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I so agree. Like, the traditional career path ladder was definitely not for me either. And I was, like Jamie, thinking like, well, what else can I do? I guess I got to go back to school and get another degree. Like, I got to start over. Like, why did I get, this one degree for this one career path? And I just had no idea until I started just opening up my mind and just trying different things and talking to other people and having mentors and learning. And so I think it's really important to talk about like that mindset shift, especially like, I think as pharmacists, we are kind of just focused on this one path. And also we're really kind of scared to put ourselves out there, like the fear of opening up, trying something new. And then so what we do is we kind of play small. We don't take those tiny steps, and we kind of make ourselves blend in. So ultimately, we fulfill those prophecies of like, yeah, see, it doesn't work out. You can't do something different. I got to stay stuck in my role. And so, yeah, I would love to hear, especially like Thea and Jamie, who've done, they've been doing this for a long time. Like, how do pharmacists get unstuck?
I think the first thing is surrounding yourself with the kind of person you want to be and where you want to go in your career. Typically, I know for me, I was just surrounded by people who worked in my same big box chain. And the only thing they were talking about was complaining about their schedule and trying to work extra overtime. And so it was nothing to do with where I wanted to go, where I wanted to earn a lot more while being at home and not doing clinical stuff. I didn't want to do clinical stuff. I don't like clinical. And so trying to bounce those ideas off of those peers was going to go nowhere. So I think one of the most important things you can do is build your own supportive network. Thea and Stephanie are my network. We've been friends for a long time. I can text either of them with things that are going well, where I'm getting frustrated, because I know I have their support and they're people I want to be. So selfishly saying like, I want to be friends with Thea, I just want to follow in her wake and do what she's doing, is amazing, because with sources like LinkedIn, you can get directly to anyone, and almost everyone's so excited to help and to willing to take you under their wing.
I want to hit the listeners with some hard facts for a second, because this conversation needed to happen probably 3 or 4 years ago. And that is 90,000 pharmacies in 2010. And now we have 30% less pharmacies in the United States that are open, because the business of pharmacy is under a drastic plate tectonic change of how pharmacy works in our healthcare system. Therefore, the PharmD is not going to be like it was from a mass perspective of how many pharmacists we need for the traditional role of what pharmacists do. On the flip side of that coin, that makes it sound all dismal, I'm a half glass full kind of guy, so I'm going to leave you guys with this before I kick it back to Thea. And that is, if you take your PharmD and start thinking of AI and technology and consultancy and the new insurances that are going to be created, and not waiting for permission to do anything, go do where your heart is and apply your PharmD to it. You could work for a Fortune 100 company because of the attitude and because of the mix that you've put into your career. And I know people don't like to hear this, but if you don't have a side gig in the form of a blog, in the form of a podcast, in the form of a book, in the form of something else to exercise to where your PharmD can take you, you need to start that today. And Thea, I want your comments on that too.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right, Todd, because we look at the short job opportunities, the short list on job opportunities, if you're staying with just your PharmD, and realize that if we don't show up differently for our future, not only do we not have a job in a pharmacy, because those are changing drastically, but also think about the community impact. The community impact in that is that then we're not the most trusted and most available healthcare professional in the country. And so for me, it was trying to figure out and helping others figure out what they want to show up as. Like for me, it was about my community. I live in rural America. There was no money here and the community was suffering. And so for me, it's about sharing that knowledge, my knowledge, with others in my community to make them healthier. But some people, it's niching down, right? Pharmacogenomic testing. We got functional medicine. We got like hormone stuff. We got like diabetes specific. We got all the different modalities that we as pharmacists know a ton about. And it's opening the doors up, because once you say to yourself, I'm more than a pharmacist. I'm more than that retail job. And I want more from my degree. That gives me goosebumps, by the way. When you can say that, like, the opportunities then start flowing. You're putting it out there into the world that says energetically, I am ready for something more, something different. And I don't care what people think about me. I'm going to do it, because at the end of the day, it's only my cup that matters. If my cup isn't half full or overflowing, it ain't good enough for me. And that's where a lot of pharmacists are stuck, because let's talk about the bad thing in pharmacy is the student loan debt. We come out with $250,000 in student loan debt at 11, 12, 16% interest, and we wonder why we feel the financial burden. Like, you can't have a house, a car, a child, and a student loan. Even making what we make today, we will still struggle. And so when you are struggling like that, you're like, oh, can I even think outside the box? Like, I can't even think straight, like, let alone think about new opportunities. But it's about that stuck. How stuck do you feel every day, dragging your happy butt into work on a Monday morning, like sadness from inside out, like blue everywhere behind you, because you're like not able to be who you are and what you were doing this for. And so for me, it was, I want to take care of patients without touching them. Jamie knows my thing. Yep. Todd does too. I'm a cactus. I don't like to touch people. So with that, like, that was what filled my cup up. And so when you open the door and say, how do I do that differently? That's when all of the different ways come at you, much like Jamie is teaching, right? Like, how many different ways can come at me when I just want to be a patient advocate? Mm-hmm. Like, how many ways, Jamie? Tell me.
We love your PharmD, Jamie. We want to hear about it.
Yes. So what is where pharmacists really, I think, need help and get stuck is knowing what to do next. Because pharmacy school taught us to be really good employees. And it didn't even teach us to interview. Like, you just have the license, be a hard worker, you get the job. So just exploring even what we're interested in, let alone what we want to pursue, can feel overwhelming. And so that's what I'm so excited with. Love my PharmD. Go to lovemypharmd.com. That's the place I go to start helping people understand, first of all, like, what are you even interested in? What do you want to pursue? What are you uniquely good at? And how can we pair that together with your previous experience and your pharmacy background to give you direction in your career for what to pursue? Because too often we just scroll the job posting, see a salary, see that it's remote, and are like, great, I can do that. Sign me up. When really what we're individually good at is much smaller and narrower, and we've never been taught or learned how to pursue what we're really good at that makes us stand out. And we're just used to chasing job titles, chasing money that we find out very quickly are not actually that fulfilling. And so starting your job search with a better understanding of who you are, how you operate, and what makes you unique in the world, and then pairing that with a number of non-traditional opportunities is just a fun way to approach it, and way more effective than just chasing the dollars.
Yeah, I agree. And so, it's like, okay, once you get over the mindset and that fear of like, okay, I'm going to do something different. It's like, okay, now what is that actually going to be? And so just applying to the next best thing that sounds good or what your friend does doesn't always make sense. So taking that time to almost like step back and, assess your strengths and your superpowers and what you really want, desire in a role, and not, what everyone else is doing, and then matching that with what the market is demanding. And so I think that's like a really big first step. And staying stuck is hard. But I think, doing any of this is not easy, but I think that's hard too. But I think staying stuck is also harder, and you can always go back, just to try. And I like to think, I love, coaching and mentoring. And so I think about it as like taking tiny steps, what's like the next step. And so it can be overwhelming. And so that's why I like to kind of break down that whole process into tiny, like small steps. So it's like, once you figure out, narrow it down to 1 to 3 roles. Like, so many people reach out and say, oh, I want to do this or this. And they're like kind of all over the place. And I'm like, you need to narrow that down. So once you kind of figure it out, then everything becomes so much easier as well. And so now you kind of have that focus. You can start reaching out to people, connecting, networking, crafting your resume towards that. We spend so much time on the things that don't really move the needle, like the perfect resume, or, applying to 100, like people say, I literally applied to 100 jobs online and haven't heard anything. And that just degrades your confidence and you give up. And it makes me really sad. And I also think once you, like Jamie's way of like finding your true strengths and harnessing that, really empowers you and gets you excited and makes you fall in love with your degree again, which feels really fun, and it doesn't feel like work anymore. And then it just gets really exciting. And so, yeah, we also, I think, we like to list our responsibilities or duties on the resume, where we really need to turn those into actionable accomplishments. And so in using the right wording to attract those right roles as well is like a huge game changer.
I see there's a trend I watch these trends happen when I go to national conferences. And then I see people reacting to posts that Jamie, that you've written on LinkedIn. And then I see 6 months later, a pharmacist launches this new blog or this new initiative. And so I want to back up, because the three of you are way ahead of some of our listeners that are listening at this very moment who feel stuck. They're at their big retail box chain position. They desperately want to do consulting in pediatrics and maybe go join the team at Perfecting Peds. But tell me, how do you get, like, where could you start? Like that's probably I think that's the biggest thing to overcome for our pharmacists that are listening right now is how do I start?
I think Jamie would be great to answer this because she's got the great micro experimentation that I've used myself and it works. So I want Jamie to explain how you do it.
Oh, you just got to be really awkward and be a beginner and do things that don't work, that make you feel like an idiot for trying, and just start new things. Number one would just be like consume different information. Start reading The Economist. Start listening to podcasts about economics. Like, get out of pharmacy and only CE as your only like IV of information. Just start learning about the greater world, see what you're interested in, and then start pursuing it and figuring out how to get experience from that, from the job you're working in, to start building a portfolio of transferable skills, and then connect with people and apply to jobs that seem wildly different, to just start and try. And you're going to laugh in 3 months at like, oh my gosh, that was so embarrassing. But by doing different things, consuming non-pharmacy stuff, and just thinking bigger and figuring out like what you actually like. What do you actually want to do as a human, not as a professional? It gives you a heading and it gives you action that like you're starting to do things instead of just staying stuck scrolling job postings. That most people aren't willing to be a beginner, and they aren't willing to be awkward and have things not go gangbuster the first time, but just figuring out what you're actually interested in as a human and how to pursue that with your PharmD supporting you is kind of fun. And there is no clear line. Pharmacists are so used to having a very clear path. This is what we do. This is the checklist. This is where I go. And once you get out of traditional roles, that disappears. There are very few innovative paths, which is what makes Thea's program so valuable, to help you bridge into there. There's going to be a lot of figuring out, and pharmacists hate that. But if you can be okay figuring it out and being awkward, you have the advantage, and you'll cobble together something that works uniquely for you. Or just hire someone. If you know you love patient care and want to work in new ways, just hire an expert like Thea who's amazing at it. And that really is the shortcut.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off of that, Jamie, is that, you got to get uncomfortable first. And for me, getting to figure out what it is I wanted, that took me 6 months to figure out what filled my cup up for pharmacy, analyzing the last 8 jobs I had, like what pieces of it made me happy. And that for me was the starting point of, okay, what's going to make me happy? What pieces did I like? And where am I going? Well, I didn't know where I was going, but I picked up a really great book that's called Start With Why. And that book is amazing for an opportunity of, I don't even know what I'm interested in, but I know I have a passion for something. Start with why. Because when it gets hard, I got to go back to my why and say, oh gosh, I remember patient advocacy is what fills my cup up when it's hard. Like, it gets hard sometimes. Do I want to continue? Do I want to keep doing it? No one else is doing it. Or am I sure I'm doing it right? Like, all of these anxiety-ridden things come up. And if you remember your why did you get into pharmacy school? Why do you want to go do something else with your degree? Because you've done the gamut of pharmacy, like I did, done the gamut of pharmacy, and it doesn't work for me. I did look at becoming a realtor. I did, and I can't sell anything. I can't sell ice to an Eskimo. I can't do any of it. Like, not even to the people who need it. Like, really not good at sales. But here's the thing. If I was able to know what it is that fills my cup up, it comes down to just that. And it's asking questions and getting uncomfortable, just like Jamie said. And the other book that I really, really love in this is The Blue Ocean Strategy. Once you figure out what you love to do, whether it's, I don't know, maybe it's petting horses, I don't know. Then you figure out the opportunities of how I get to pet a horse every day, to do what I want to do to fill the cup. Maybe it's a pharmacist, maybe it's not. But you got to start asking yourself the questions of, what does my future self want? what is it that I'm looking for? What is going to fill my cup up as a person? What is going to integrate into my life the way I need to show up as a parent, as a wife, as a spouse, as a whatever, a coworker, whatever it is? You got to figure out where you want to start in saying, I've had enough of this and I want a future like this. The vision board helped me there too. I don't know about you, Jamie. I remember we talked about vision boards a lot when we were first starting out. And, it really came down to, what is the vision I want for my life? And then I took the goal and worked backwards. And that's how I feel most entrepreneurs, most people who get outside of any industrial box that we've been put in the industrial revolutionary ages versus now in the digital ages of learning, we have the access to everything we ever could imagine. And we're not tapping into it because we're staying in our box. And for me, you ask yourself the why, you'll figure out how to start poking holes in your box very easily as a pharmacist for opportunities like us all are doing.
Yeah. And exactly what Thea is saying and what Jamie is saying, it's action fuels clarity. So it's stepping out and taking just one step of action, and you will just learn so much from taking one step. Is it talking to someone in that role that you may be interested in, listening to a podcast, reading a new book, taking that time? You can't be doing it in a stressful state of mind because your mind will kind of shut down everything. So, take some time, go to a coffee shop, or have some music playing. I like to light a candle, make my favorite cup of tea, where you need to be in a calm state and really think about it, and then breaking it down. Once you figure out where that goal is, work backwards, like Thea said, and what small steps can you take week by week, and time block it into your calendar. Make that time. We say we don't have time, we're so busy, but there is the time. It's possible. And so just taking even 5-10 minutes a day, making a post on LinkedIn, connecting with someone, brushing up your resume, so many things that you could do, and just taking it chunk by chunk, step by step, I find takes that whole overwhelming process and makes it actually doable and realistic, and so less overwhelming.
And then you're really taking control of your future because you're running to something rather than running from something and hoping this next job solves all of your problems, because it won't. Running to something and attracting the right work for you, even if it takes years and decades, gives you the satisfaction and the joy and the unique roles rather than reactively trying to fix everything that's wrong.
And that was exactly what I found, Jamie, in my job. I didn't like my last job, but I started building my job as a side hustle, what I am in today as a side hustle. And that side hustle lit the fire for satisfaction that I didn't feel as blue going to work every day, knowing that I had something that I was driving in my passion to do. And so even if it is just that first step of building a side hustle, like Stephanie is saying, you got to take the first step somewhere. And, when you do, the other things that you don't like to do become more comfortable because I can now drive this forward at my speed, at my pace, when I'm ready, and learning along the way. Security net is still behind me. I'm grateful for that security net and being able to push my passion forward. It gave me a different mindset on the misery I was feeling as I was building. It was less miserable that way.
And a colleague and I were talking today and a lot about how, her and I are both did the traditional, clinical specialist in the ICU role. And now we're talking about non-traditional roles. And we're like, wow, the trajectory for salary is way huge and way higher than the traditional roles where you don't really go anywhere, don't really have much of a salary bump. And especially if you don't want to become a manager or a director, which definitely wasn't what I was interested in. And so kind of seeing, once I kind of took a step back and I was looking at pharmacists, talking to pharmacists that were years ahead of me when I had kids that were really little and they had kids in college, and they had them telling me how stuck they were, and also feeling like they couldn't really, it was challenging for them to stay in those roles, but they felt like there was nowhere for them to go. And I kind of saw, thinking that that's actually not what I see for myself. And so it took me a long time too. I mean, I've taken, a ton of courses and studied and read tons of books and tried a lot of different things to figure it out. And you know what? It's now I feel like the world is my oyster and there's so many options for me, and I'm just super excited about it. And so I just think it's just we as a, profession need to kind of realize this, because these roles, if they're not going to PharmDs, then they're going to other healthcare professionals. So why not the PharmD, who's the medication expert? Use that expertise and see how your salary can really skyrocket pretty quickly.
And be happy doing it. Every one of us on the call today had a side hustle that we were passionate about, and now it's what we do. I podcast in 2009, and until 2019 there was no money in it, and so it took a long time to make, and there's still not any money in it very much. That's another podcast. But the reason why I'm so excited about this episode and the people that are listening right now is they feel stuck. They want to know what to do. What I'm going to do is in the show notes, you're going to have links to each of these wonderful people that have transformed their PharmD into something else. Stephanie Smith, Thea Blystone, Jamie Wilkey. In the show notes, you'll have LinkedIn. Click on the LinkedIn, go to their LinkedIn, reach out to them, post about this podcast, share this podcast with other people who you might feel stuck. And don't be stuck. Reach out to any four of us that's on this show today. We'll help you connect with someone. I'm going to push everybody to Jamie Wilkey. But if you want to podcast about it in the future, let's go. Let's do it. And I have, and just as a side note, I have a side hustle that was the Pharmacy Podcast Network's my side hustle is RxPR. So it's like now I have another side hustle that's going to become the future of PR and business development in the pharmacy profession. And that's a big, 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 big dream. But guess what? That's how big that your dreams are. Your dreams are too big to wait, and you shouldn't be waiting anymore. So I appreciate each of you today on This Week in Pharmacy.